Lights off, headphones on, and get ready for another round of hair-raising stories on Quick Scare. Gather round as we delve into the eerie and mysterious once again. It all began innocently enough. My husband and I decided to take our two young children, Olivia and Ethan, on a camping trip in the heart of the dense forest. We thought it would be a great opportunity for the family to bond and escape the hustle and bustle of city life. Little did we know that the woods held a dark secret that would change our lives forever. The first night was uneventful. We set up our tent near a picturesque stream, the soft gurgling providing a soothing backdrop to the chirping of crickets. We roasted marshmallows over the crackling fire, and as the kids giggled, we felt a sense of contentment. However, as darkness fell, the atmosphere changed. The forest seemed to come alive with strange noises. Branches creaked and leaves rustled, creating an eerie symphony that sent shivers down my spine. I brushed it off as normal woodland sounds, but something felt off. The next morning, we decided to explore the woods. The trees stood tall and imposing, their thick canopy blocking out most of the sunlight. The kids were excited, their laughter echoing through the silent forest. But soon, the joy turned into unease. We stumbled upon an ancient, dilapidated cabin hidden deep within the trees. Its windows were shattered and the door hung loosely on its hinges. Against my better judgment, curiosity got the best of me, and we entered the decaying structure. The air inside was thick with dust and musty odor, and the floor creaked under our weight. As we explored the rooms, we found remnants of a life long gone, old furniture covered in dusty sheets, faded photographs, and a journal with cryptic entries. It seemed the cabin had been abandoned for decades, yet something lingered, an unseen presence that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. That night, we heard the whispers, soft, almost inaudible voices that seemed to emanate from the very fabric of the forest. I dismissed it as my imagination, a byproduct of the eerie atmosphere. But as the days passed, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. The kids claimed they heard them too, and their innocent eyes reflected genuine fear. One evening, as we sat around the campfire, the whispers coalesced into words. A haunting, otherworldly voice spoke directly into our minds, recounting tales of a tragedy that had unfolded within these very woods. A family, much like ours, had come seeking solace, but had fallen victim to a malevolent force that lurked in the shadows. The voice warned us to leave, to escape the impending doom that awaited us. I scoffed at the idea of supernatural interference, attributing it to the vivid imaginations of my children. But the warnings persisted, and a growing sense of dread gnawed at the edges of my skepticism. One night, as we lay in our tent, the whispers reached a crescendo. The voice, now frantic and desperate, pleaded with us to flee. And then it revealed the chilling truth. The malevolent force was not external but had infiltrated our very souls. The forest fed on fear, and once it had its grasp on us, there was no escape. I refused to believe it, dismissing it as a desperate attempt to terrify us into leaving. But as the night wore on, an invisible grip tightened around our hearts. Fear consumed us, tearing at the fabric of our sanity. Shadows danced around the edges of our vision, and the once comforting sounds of the forest became a cacophony of sinister whispers. In a fit of desperation, I decided we had to leave immediately. The kids were in a state of terror, their eyes wide with dread. As we stumbled through the darkness, the forest seemed to come alive, contorting and warping in unnatural ways. The whispers grew louder, mocking and malevolent. Just as we reached the edge of the woods, a blinding light enveloped us. The whispers turned into anguished screams and the oppressive darkness retreated. We stumbled out into the open, gasping for breath as the weight lifted from our shoulders. It was only then that I realized the true horror of the forest. It wasn't a malevolent entity preying on our fears. It was a manifestation of the darkness within ourselves. The forest had shown us our deepest fears and insecurities, forcing us to confront the demons that lurked in the shadows of our minds. We returned home, forever changed by our harrowing experience. The whispers had faded, but the scars remained. The once tight-knit bond of our family had frayed, each of us haunted by the shadows of the whispering woods. Hey there, I'm just a regular guy who never believed in the supernatural until that one chilling night changed everything. I need to share this story with you because, honestly, I'm not sure if I can bear the weight of it alone. It all started innocently enough. My wife, Sarah, and I decided to move to a small, picturesque town to give our two kids, Emma and Jake, a quieter and safer upbringing. We found an old Victorian house on the outskirts of town, a charming relic that seemed to hold a warmth from centuries. The first few weeks were idyllic. The kids were thrilled to explore their new home, and Sarah and I were enchanted by the historic charm of the place. But as the days passed, strange things began to happen. One night, as I tucked Emma into bed, she looked up at me with wide, innocent eyes and whispered, "Daddy, who's the boy in my closet?" I chuckled, thinking it was just her imagination getting the best of her. "There's no one there, sweetheart. Just your imagination playing tricks on you." But Emma insisted that she heard giggles and footsteps in her room at night. I dismissed it as a child's overactive imagination until I started hearing the same eerie sounds myself. Late one night, while everyone else was asleep, I crept down the hallway, drawn by a soft, haunting melody. The sound led me to Emma's room. The closet door was slightly ajar, and the tune seemed to be emanating from within. I cautiously opened the door, expecting to find a misplaced toy with a malfunctioning battery. Instead, I was greeted by an empty closet. The melody persisted, growing louder and more haunting. A shiver ran down my spine as I realized it wasn't a toy or a figment of our imagination. It was something else, something otherworldly. Over the next few weeks, the encounters escalated. Sarah started waking up with inexplicable scratches on her arms, and Jake complained about unseen hands touching his shoulder. The house, once warm and inviting, now felt oppressive, as if it were harboring a secret we couldn't comprehend. Desperation set in, and we called in paranormal investigators. They spent hours setting up cameras and monitoring equipment, but their findings only deepened the mystery. Strange shadows moved across the walls and electronic devices malfunctioned without explanation. One night, as I lay in bed, unable to sleep, I heard a soft whisper in my ear. "Leave this place." I jolted upright, my heart pounding. The voice was neither male nor female, and it seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. I woke Sarah, and we decided it was time to heed the ghostly warning. With heavy hearts, we packed our bags and left the house behind. We found refuge in a nearby hotel, hoping that distance would sever the connection to whatever haunted that Victorian relic. Days turned into weeks, and we began to rebuild our lives, putting the nightmare behind us. But just when we thought we were safe, a knock on the hotel room door shattered our fragile peace. I opened the door to find a police officer, a look of concern etched across his face. He informed us that our old house had burned to the ground, the flames reducing it to ashes and whispers in the dark. As I stood there, stunned, he handed me a charred photograph that had somehow survived the inferno. In the picture, I saw the unmistakable silhouette of a young boy, the same boy Emma had claimed to see in her closet. The police couldn't explain the cause of the fire. No faulty wiring, no gas leaks, just a sudden and unexplainable inferno that consumed the house in minutes. The chilling realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Whatever haunted that house wasn't bound by the physical realm. It had followed us, warning us of the impending danger that we had unknowingly left behind. Now, as I sit in our new home, surrounded by the echoes of the past, I can't help but wonder if the ghostly warning was an attempt to protect us or a sinister premonition of the horror that awaited. And so, the whispers in the dark continue, a reminder that some mysteries are better left unsolved and some hauntings can't be escaped, no matter how far you run. Lights on, you made it through another quick scare adventure. If you got spooked, give us a thumbs up, share your own scary encounters in the comments, and hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more nightmares. Until the next scare, stay cautious.